You're embarrassing to be around. Get out, you loser. Olivia had always been harsh since we got married, but this time she went too far. I clenched my fists in frustration. You can't say things like that. I'm not a loser. Then my son, David, spoke with a look of disdain. I've never acknowledged you as my dad. You're a disgrace to this family. It was a shocking statement. I packed my things into a small suitcase and prepared to leave the house. Just then, my daughter, Emily, rushed out from the hallway. Dad, I'm coming with you. I don't like Mom at all. A warm feeling welled up inside me, and I took Emily's hand. Mom called me a loser, but actually, I make $30 million a year. Emily seemed to think it was a joke and laughed brightly. So, Emily and I took a train and arrived at a luxury residential area. As Emily looked around in confusion, we stopped in front of an especially large mansion. My name is Benjamin. I'm a 52-year-old caregiver. I've been working in this job for almost 10 years now. Being a caregiver is tough, but it's a rewarding job. I truly believe that switching to this career was the right decision. I used to work as an accountant at a small firm. The company was a real grind, and I was working late at night every day. Just as I started questioning if this was the life I wanted, my mother, who lived alone in the countryside, fell ill. She needed a wheelchair and required constant care. Having lost my father when I was young, my mother was my only family. I left my own family behind and moved back to my hometown to care for her. I've never regretted quitting my job. I had heard that finding a new job would be tough after leaving the workforce for caregiving. But I was determined to cherish my last days with my mother. The reality of caregiving is far from easy. Helping with the bathroom and baths, cooking soft meals, assisting with eating, each day was consumed by these tasks. She wouldn't sleep well at night, leaving me sleep deprived. Watching my mother regress to a childlike state was heartbreaking. If this were child rearing, the child would grow and become more capable. But with elderly care, no matter how much care you provide, their abilities diminish, and the hardship increases. Had I tried to handle it all alone, I might have despaired at life. What saved me was a nearby care facility. I used every service they offered, like day service, short stays, and home visits. The caregivers treated my mother so well, and I can't express how much they saved us. After my mother passed away, I was hit with a devastating sense of emptiness. Seeing my state, Emma, my mother's care manager, made a suggestion. Benjamin, why don't you consider working in caregiving? People like you are needed in this field. Could I really help? I know caregiving needs more hands. If I can help other families like mine, I'd love to do it. So, I returned home from the countryside and started working as a caregiver. The only ones who never understood caregiving were my family. I married Olivia 10 years ago. At that time, I was still an office worker, making good money with all the overtime. We met at a matchmaking party for people in their 40s. Olivia had been married before, and her son, David, was 10 at the time. I had always been single and had a strong desire for a family. Olivia often tearfully recounted how she had struggled as a single mother since David was born. Unable to secure a permanent position at work, she bounced from one temporary job to another, struggling to make ends meet. She was a bit chubby, but that added to her charm. She had a warm smile that seemed to embrace everything. Benjamin, you always wear such worn-out clothes. Why don't we go shopping together sometime? I'll help you pick out some outfits. That sounds great. I don't often buy new clothes because I feel like I can still wear the ones I have. At the time, I thought Olivia was just making an excuse for us to go on a date. We met at the station and went around various clothing stores, buying clothes and accessories. I looked pretty stylish by the end of it, but I also ended up spending a lot. She even took me to a fancy hair salon where I had my hair cut, permed and dyed. When they said, all done, my hair in the mirror showed no noticeable changes, making me wonder what, if anything, had been effective. I later found out that the salon owner was a friend of Olivia's. She took me there to help support the business. Looking back, I might have been a bit desperate. As things with Olivia got better, I thought this might be my only chance in life. They say love makes you less rational, and that's exactly what happened. Olivia seemed more beautiful than ever. David was a cheeky kid even back then, but I saw it as youthful energy. However, he never showed me any respect. Still, I thought things would change once we became a family, so I proposed to Olivia, and we got married. My mother, who was healthy at the time, was overjoyed that I finally got married. But Olivia, who had always liked flashy things, started spending money recklessly and eventually quit her job without consulting me. I'm quitting my job because I'm only getting temp positions and it doesn't pay well. I want to be a full-time housewife and focus on raising our child. Our daughter was born shortly after we got married, and we named her Emily. I finally felt like we had become a real family. Emily was a sweet child and very attached to me. I worked harder than ever, to the point where it affected my health. I felt numbness all over my body and had bouts of dizziness. I managed to get by each day, pushing through the discomfort. Then my mother's caregiving began, and I returned to my hometown alone. To my surprise, the numbness and dizziness disappeared completely when I was away from my family. After caring for my mother until she passed away, I returned home to find David in college and Emily in 5th grade. While Olivia and David had been living lavishly, spending my savings. When I got home, Emily came running to me. "Dad, welcome back. You must be tired." "Thanks, Emily. Where are your mom and David?" "They went out for drinks. They knew you were coming home today." Emily was the only one who welcomed me back. Olivia and David didn't appreciate my 5 years of caregiving at all. After my mother's caregiving, I became more frugal. Even if people mocked my shabby clothes, I didn't care. Olivia and her son cost a lot, and my caregiver's salary wasn't as high as before. So, I had to be frugal to manage. I also wanted to save for the future. Everyone will need care someday. When that time comes, money is what matters most, as I've learned from experience. My mother managed to be cared for at home, but there are limits to family caregiving. If one needs to enter a nursing facility, it costs a lot. It's best if the person can cover it with their pension, but we don't live in an era with ample pension funds. In that case, you'll need to dip into your savings to ensure you get the care you need until the end. This way, you won't burden your family, which I believe is the best option. That's why I work at the care facility every day. The facility I work at mainly offers day service and short stays. Day service involves spending time with the users from morning until evening, engaging in recreational activities. During this time, their families are relieved from caregiving duties and can enjoy a moment of peace. Short stays allow users to stay at the facility for a few days. Like day service, this provides caregivers with some free time to refresh both body and mind. Every morning, I ride my bike to the nursing facility, change into my uniform, and start my work. There, I formed a special bond with Sophia, who uses the day service 3 times a week. I call Sophia Mom. On the other hand, Sophia calls me Benjamin. Sophia is a very intelligent elderly woman, but she has poor legs and uses a wheelchair. I dedicate the feelings of unfinished business from my own mother's care to Sophia. Sophia lives in a mansion and recently made the whole house barrier-free. Seeing wealthy seniors like her reinforces the importance of money in the end. Sophia completely trusts me and often tells others, "My son takes good care of me." "Benjamin, I'd like to get some fresh air. Could you push my wheelchair?" "Of course, Mom. The weather is nice, let's go out to the garden." Our natural interaction brings smiles from my colleagues. One day, I discovered my checking account, used for living expenses, was empty when I updated my passbook. It was the middle of the month, with a long way to go until my next paycheck. I immediately took out the savings passbook and confronted Olivia. "What is this? Why is the account empty?" "It's only the middle of the month." When I glared at her, expecting an excuse, Olivia brazenly responded. "You say it's for living expenses, but it's never enough. There are other savings, but this is the only account I can access." "Of course. It's empty. I've put in enough for the 3 of us to live on." "You're spending too much. You expect me to wear ragged clothes like you? Besides, being with you is embarrassing. Get out, you loser." Olivia had always had a sharp tongue since we got married, but calling the only breadwinner a loser was too much. This time, she had gone too far. I clenched my fists in frustration and managed to speak. You can't talk like that. I'm not a loser. I'm working hard as a husband and father. Then David spoke with a look of disdain. I've never acknowledged you as my dad. You're a disgrace to this family. It was a shocking statement. From there, it turned into an endless dispute. We unleashed all our pent-up frustrations and started arguing. Do you think we can live without my income? It's heartbreaking that my hard work only earns these words. You earning money is a given. I've been taking care of the house and the kids. But do you know how humiliating it was to walk beside you? Just like David said, you were an embarrassment. I was momentarily speechless. I never imagined she felt that way about being with me. Fine. I'll leave. But don't regret it later. Even if we divorce, I'm keeping this house. It's compensation for 10 years of living in poverty. Though I said I would leave, I hadn't mentioned divorce, but Olivia brought up compensation. She must have been thinking about divorce for a while. With things like this, we can't continue living together. We've been married for 10 years, but for 5 of those years, I was away caring for my mother. Back then, our household was divided, and I sent extra living expenses, thinking it would help. Maybe that was a mistake. The account Olivia managed was always empty by the end of the month, but I assumed it was because David and Emily's education costs were high. But to David, I was just an embarrassing father. So there's no point in staying together. If I leave, divorce will naturally follow. What was our marriage for? If I hadn't married Olivia, would I have married someone else? Maybe that woman would have cared for my mother with me. But it's all my responsibility. I chose Olivia and decided on this life. I silently stood up and packed my things into a small suitcase in the bedroom. There was a knock, and Emily peeked in. Dad, what are you going to do now? Mom and David don't want me here, so I'm leaving. But this is your home, isn't it? Hearing Emily's voice nearly brought me to tears. I patted her on the head and said, "Take care," before heading down the stairs. I walked out the front door, intending to head to the main street. Just then, Emily, with her school bag on, came running after me. Dad, I'm coming with you. I don't like Mom. A warm feeling surged in my chest, and I took Emily's hand. I wasn't alone. The warmth from Emily's hand melted my troubled heart. We walked side by side towards the nearest station. Emily seemed a bit nervous. Maybe she was worried about our future. To reassure her, I revealed the truth I had been keeping. Mom called me a loser, but actually, I make $30 million a year. No way, Dad. You're just an ordinary person. And I know caregivers don't make that much. Emily seemed to think I was joking. Without saying more, we got on the train and arrived at a luxury residential area. Emily was bewildered as we stopped in front of an especially large mansion. I rang the doorbell and gave my name, and Sophia's voice responded. You have the spare key, don't you? Come on in. While Emily looked puzzled, I took out the key from my pocket and opened the door. Sophia greeted us, wheeling herself in her wheelchair. I'm sorry for the sudden visit. It seems my wife and I are getting a divorce. I see. But now we can move forward with the adoption plans. I quickly introduced Emily to Sophia. Sophia smiled warmly and greeted her. Nice to meet you, Emily. Emily still looked confused, but we went into the spacious living room since it wasn't a conversation for the entrance. Emily was astonished by the luxurious furnishings and the room size. Are we going to live here? Why? I'm going to be adopted by Sophia. For that, I needed your mom's consent. If I became Sophia's son while still married, your mom would have likely spent Sophia's assets. So that's why you couldn't be adopted until now. I quietly said, exactly. Emily, is it okay if you have to change schools to commute from here? Sophia asked. That's fine. I'm good at making friends quickly, Emily replied confidently. How wonderful. From now on, I'll be your grandmother. If you need anything, just let me know. We're going to keep this house as it is and build a care facility on the remaining land. Sophia is an intelligent woman who inherited vast lands and considerable assets from her parents. She once told me she had lived a relatively easy life, never marrying and having no other family. As she approached the end of her life, she thought about what she could do and came up with the idea of turning her home into a care facility. Since it would be difficult to do alone, she first talked to me about it. I won't always be as healthy as I am now. Having a facility at home would be very reassuring. Benjamin, would you help me with my dream? Sophia had already spoken with contractors and planned to build facilities on her other properties, ultimately creating a significant social welfare corporation. This corporation is the one with an annual revenue of $30 million, and Sophia has entrusted me with full authority. I took action immediately. First, I stopped all bank transactions and changed my card numbers to cut ties with Olivia. The next day, Olivia called me multiple times. I can't withdraw any money. What are we supposed to do about living expenses? Now that you've cut ties with the loser, you should be able to live more luxuriously. I want a divorce. Emily wants to stay with me. We'll also handle the property division properly. Olivia readily agreed when I offered to give her the house as part of the property division. Since Emily often took my side, she might have been a nuisance to Olivia. Olivia easily agreed to let me have custody of Emily. As part of the property division, I decided to give Olivia the house she currently lives in with David. The other bank accounts were kept in my name. When I sent the divorce petition, Olivia signed and returned them. I handed over the petition at the court, officially becoming a single man. Now, Olivia and David, who I never adopted, are just strangers. I formally adopted Sophia, resolving to take care of her until the end. Care facilities will be more necessary in the future. Someday, I will go from caregiver to care receiver too. Though I don't want to think about it, it's an inevitable path. To ensure I receive proper care with a solid system, I must prepare now. Our new life began with me, Sophia, and Emily. Emily got to use a room on the second floor of the spacious mansion. Sophia had already arranged for a luxurious carpet, lovely colored curtains, a beautiful bed, and an expensive study desk. It feels like a dream. When I decided to come with you, I thought we'd end up in a tiny, bathless apartment. But now I feel like the main character of a storybook. Knowing Emily followed me with such resolve deepened my affection for her. Emily called Sophia Grandma and helped her with various things. Sophia, moved by Emily's kindness, often shed tears of joy. I chose a life without marriage, thinking I'd never have grandchildren, but having such a lovely granddaughter now is the greatest happiness. I'm happy to have a grandma too. I never lived with my grandma, so I couldn't do anything for her. But now I can be kind to my new grandma. Seeing me involved in caregiving, Emily decided she wanted to follow the same path. While it was a joyous thought, knowing the hardships of the caregiving field, I also worried about her future. So, I always talked openly about both the good and bad sides of caregiving. In reality, the job is physically demanding and pays less compared to other professions. Many people mistake caregiving for volunteer or service work and treat caregivers disrespectfully. I'm glad you want to be a caregiver. But remember, it's not always a job where you're appreciated. There's night work, and the pay is low. Make sure you know the good and the bad before deciding. Honestly, I hesitate to rely on Emily for my care. The 5 years of caring for my mother left a lasting impression. Ideally, I'd like to stay healthy and pass away without needing care, but who knows what lies ahead. I plan to extend my healthy years by paying attention to my diet and exercising regularly. Once we settled into our new life, Olivia tried to contact us again. Apparently, she was struggling financially after the divorce. Meanwhile, I had become Sophia's adopted son and stood to inherit her substantial wealth. Isn't it unfair? You never told me about someone like Sophia. If I'd known, I wouldn't have agreed to the divorce. I figured you'd try to get your hands on Sophia's money, which is why I insisted on the divorce. I'm sorry I called you a loser. Can't we live together again? I'll change and be good to you. The idea of Olivia being good to me seemed like a joke. I decided to decline politely. Sorry, but I'm not interested. You should focus on finding someone new now that you're free. I'm asking you despite the shame because there's no one else like you. Didn't David say I was an embarrassment? To avoid more shame, let's end these calls too. I then blocked Olivia's number. I learned about Olivia and David's situation through Emily. Since Olivia is her biological mother, Emily occasionally met with her. From what I heard, both Olivia and David were in dire straits. Olivia had spent all her savings and decided to sell the house I'd given her to make ends meet. She moved into a small apartment with David and focused on finding a new partner. However, in her age group, many men were looking for women who could help them when they needed care in the future. Mom was angry, saying, "No way. I didn't get married to clean up after someone else's messes. I wonder why she doesn't consider working herself." Even if Olivia couldn't work for some reason, David, who was now an adult, should be able to. However, after graduating from college, David didn't get a job. I was surprised to learn that he had gotten into gambling during his college years, to the point where it affected his studies. Thanks to the efforts of college staff, he managed to graduate. But he didn't want a full-time job because it would interfere with his gambling, so he lived doing day labor jobs. Thinking back to the days when he lived with his father, I felt both exasperated and sad. A year has passed since then. Sophia and I finally came to our dream of opening a care facility. The facility was named New Leaves. It's a newborn facility, but we plan to expand it and provide care for as many elderly people as possible. New Leaves offers both day services and a nursing home for seniors who can no longer live independently. As the director, I am busy every day. Though not always fun, the days are fulfilling. In this era where people live to be 100 years old, it is important for us to support and help each other. Spring arrived, bringing the beautiful blooming season. I pushed Sophia's wheelchair, and we enjoyed the flowers together. Sophia remains lively and actively supports the recreational activities at the facility. Most of the residents don't know that Sophia is the owner of the facility. I want to live on the same level as the other residents. If they know I'm the owner, they might hesitate to befriend me. I agree with Sophia's approach. What I wish for now is for Sophia's healthy days to continue as long as possible. Mom, please live a long life. I want you to attend Emily's wedding as her grandmother. I'm looking forward to that. It's probably a long way off, so I need to keep going. I see a big tree in front of me. A gust of wind blew, scattering a shower of blossoms. While enjoying the beautiful sight, I want to continue spending joyful times with the other residents.